Hey yo, what it div, y'all? Let's get right into it. Take a look at this meme real quick, right? Because I think we will all agree that this meme hits a little bit too close to home, right? It hits way too close to home, especially for me. As a motherfucker who loves making builds and wants to play new builds but doesn't want to level, I feel this meme a little too much. But this meme was posted relative to, Necro Settlers, and it was a conversation that my friends and I were having before Necro Settlers about, who was going to join the event or not. And quite a few people said, like, I don't really know if I feel like leveling again. It doesn't seem like enough of a reason for me to go through leveling again. This is a common point of feedback across the community. I wanted to take time to talk about this in a video, partially just to get my thoughts out there, but hopefully because, maybe GGG will see this and it'll be, one more rock in the building that will eventually help them, feel like they actually need to make a change, right? And in that degree, the biggest things to talk about are the fact that leveling is too active of an experience. It's too punishing of an experience. And I mean, honestly, we could even say it's too long of an experience, but I think that one is a little bit more subjective. And there are ways to around that feeling that I will talk about later on. So, before we get into all of it, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe if you rock with the video. Help support the channel. Lets me know you want to see more of what I'm doing here. Let's go. Now, I really want to hit home on this punishing piece. Punishment, the theme of punishment from the very jump, while I think everybody goes, well, that's just PoE. That's just the PoE way. Has nobody ever taken a step back to think about how ridiculous that sounds? Genuinely. Have you never thought about how ridiculous you sound telling somebody newer to the game, well, yeah, if you don't like getting just stepped on immediately, suffer, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, even Souls games are a little bit more forgiving about your introduction to the game, unless you go fight the optional boss right before the first boss, at which point that's your fault, right? Like, you did that to yourself, and you did that to yourself. So outside of that, because it's not like we can dodge it, right? It's not like I can avoid the part where the mudflats just try to trample me over, or the fact that Brutus does an insane amount of damage, especially if you're a melee character and you actually have to be close to him. Or, the fact that Merveil's chill is like one of the worst feeling things in the game, point blank and the period. Or that the chick guarding the all flame freezes you when you try to go get that skill point. Or the fact that on your way to Merveil, there's all these exploding sea witches that will just absolutely annihilate you in a zone that will still chill or freeze you to death anyways. Or the fact that you can roll strong boxes that will freeze you and then you'll just immediately die. There's all these things in the earlier stages of the game that don't fucking feel good. And I'm tired of pretending that it's just like, okay. It's not okay. It's not okay how many skills that you get offered, right? Offered by the game to pick as a quest reward that are downright throws. Downright throws. Not like, oh, it's like a little bit worse. A little bit worse in the context of the campaign is a horrific thing to say, because nobody wants to be there. Nobody, except for speedrunners who were only in there to do the things that are optimal anyways, or the things that they've already mapped it out will work, want to be in the campaign in the first place. Everybody wants to get to the part of the game that they see on the streams, that they see in the videos, when people are blasting maps, when people are fighting actual bosses, when people are actually playing the game, the thing that takes up the other 100+ hours of a league that we play instead of just the first fucking 12, right? Like, nobody wants to be in that part of the game. So why are there skills that actively are just so bad relative to that competition? Why is the disparity between rolling magma and freezing pulse so large? Why did they have to nerf the balls off of Spark? Why does Lightning Trap not feel that good anymore? Why does Storm Blast Mine feel flaccid, right? Why does Orb of Storms do no damage? Frost Bomb doesn't even really hit like it used to anymore, right? You play melee and you get things like 80% accuracy in level 6 on Ground Slam as a Marauder with no actual solution until you get to versatility and get up to like 91. These are problems. These are things that are actively harming the game's like ability to like stick with people, or just really harming our willingness to play the game sometimes. Like, because I think Necro Settlers is a pretty cool event, but the reality is, even if you were super interested in the event, are you interested in leveling a character? Probably the fuck not. Let's be real for a second. Or maybe you're thinking, I want to re-roll, but how many times have you stopped yourself and been like, ooh, but I got to level again? Pretty high, right? Leveling is too punishing an experience to just like interact with, to just do. You can't just pick up and level in PoE. And I would love to like act like that's not the case, but the reality is that it's naturally so punishing that the advice for people is to either follow a guide or get comfortable with the idea that you might have to restart after making certain errors early enough in the game, right? Oh, you picked the wrong thing. Ooh, time to go farm until you get another chance to drop so you can buy the right gem from the vendor. Ooh, time to hope you get an alt. Ooh, time to hope you actually drop a thing you need, right? Or, you know, ooh, imagine being a warden enjoyer. This is definitely from his personal experience, as well as listening to a friend go through this, where you just like don't get the tincture you need early on at all, even though your ascendancy is quite literally the tincture ascendancy. That feels great, doesn't it? There are so many things in like the leveling experience of the game that just don't feel good. Like, in fact, actually, they feel bad. They feel like they're designed to punish you. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of things that feel like they're just gotcha moments. We're just like, aha, stupid bitch. That's not what we want from leveling. And it's not that leveling can't be hard or engaging. It's that it shouldn't feel like the game is out to get me while we're leveling. Let the game be out to get me when they spawn those bullshit ass ground effects elsewhere in the game. Let the game be out to get me when, you know, I get surprised that there's a secret, that there's an extra phase, right? Or like, you know, when you find out that Uber Elder is there's a proper twinned fight at the end where both of them are active and damageable, but they're doing all of their patterns. Like, let the game hit me with a gotcha in those moments. Don't hit me with a gotcha when my character is downright dysfunctional, when I don't have sources of freeze immunity, when I don't have the ability to actually hit my goddamn skills, when I don't have the ability to actually deal any damage because the skill balancing in the campaign is atrocious. And in fact, actually, not just stop making gotcha moments, stop making it harder, right? Think about how many times, especially if you're a long-term PoE player, think about how many nerfs we've been levied as a result of us finding ways to actually make leveling bearable. And get this, we found out like Ooze Blast leveling, for example, and their solution to Ooze Blast being so efficient in the campaign wasn't, man, you know, people really like Ooze Blast for leveling. Why do they like it? Well, you see, it actually works and it actually kills things. Kill it. Ooh, people like Spectral Helix for leveling. I wonder why. Oh, it's because it's killing things. Nerf it. Ooh, people are loving this. You know, like right now we've got the rolling magma situation going on. Well, I'm just saying, if it was older GGG, rolling magma would have gotten sent off a cliff by now, right? Like, Spellslinger went through the exact same fate. Spellslinger existing in the game was actually one of the times where people complained the least about leveling, because the first 24 levels or so was kind of suffering, but then you got the 24, you put on your Spellslinger setup, and you were like, oh my god, I can play the game now. And what did GGG do? Yeah, you already know what's going on with Spellslinger, don't you? I don't even have to say it. And that's the thing, right? They do everything they can to make it so that we have to suffer through leveling. When again, that's the part of the game that nobody wants to be in. And so I'm not going to harp too much more on the negatives and whatnot, and the things that are wrong and the things that have been done to harm our leveling experience, because I feel like all I'm doing now is poking at a wound. In fact, I am opening that wound. I've got the tweezers. You know what I mean? Like, we are in there spreading that wound and pouring all sorts of salt in it. And more what I want to do now is actually talk about things that I think would make the experience better, or more just thinking about things that are more directly actionable as a piece of feedback. And the number one has to be, again, dialing back to this thing about the punishment level in the campaign. This league, we got to change. That was definitely maybe an accident, maybe intentional, with the use of gold as a respec resource, so that players at all points in the game, especially in the campaign, had a way by which they could actually feel like it was reasonable for them to respec passive points. That was a huge change for the campaign. It's one of the best changes we've ever gotten for the campaign, quite frankly. And you might be thinking, I mean, it's great for maps too. Yeah, but I don't care about that. In maps, like, you know, regrets are kind of a thing, or more importantly, your character's kind of ready by then, etc., right? But when we're talking like sub 70, like, your regrets, you barely drop orbs regret in the first place, or enough chances or scours to even like vendor up into regrets. So you don't actually really have access to that like that, except for the 20 points you get from quests. which sometimes you need more than that, because as we talked about earlier with the state of what skills you can and can't level on, sometimes you have to level your build on a skill that is 35 points of a tree different from how you would actually want to play the game, simply because, again, the way you want your something closer to what you actually want to level on straight up doesn't feel good. Imagine you wanted to like play any sort of like chaos stuff, for example, but you like couldn't get access to get poison stuff, so you have to kind of like suffer through like elemental leveling, which is what happened to me in Affliction League when I played Blight of Contagion. That was an elemental leveling setup that I then converted into chaos stuff, because that was the best way to level the character, even if it meant that I needed to locate like 20 extra regrets in order to make it work, right? That being a natural state of being is so bad, but gold as a respec resource helps to alleviate that problem. And I say help because I don't think it solves the problem, because I think, well, playing Torchlight or Diablo really has shown me you don't need a real cost on early game respecs at all. You don't. Like, the early game is supposed to be a period of experimentation, especially for newer players. Newer players should feel free to play around with the game that they just started playing, that they're, you know, on their second or third character through the game on. They should feel free to experiment rather than worried about wasting a resource. That's why I like the gold thing, but I think it could be expanded, you know, the cost could be reduced. I think, quite frankly, honestly, the cost could be eliminated until like level 75. And I think the game would be so much better for it. Just saying. I like you can't convince me that that actually adds anything meaningful to the game, so much as the fact that we are just used to it sucking that way. And if you disagree, I strongly urge you to check out a different game, right? Like, check out like Torchlight, check out Diablo. Check out how easy it is to try something in your tree, realize it didn't really work, change that shit out, and keep going, right? Realize how freeing that feels. That feels good. We want things that feel good, not things that feel not as bad. 2, again, like I said earlier, as I was giving through like active angry feedback, skills. The skills need to be rebalanced in the campaign, and not in the way that we need to nerf Arma Crema again, and that we need to nerf bow leveling because bow leveling still has incredible damage, and not that we need to nerf slams. No, we need to bring other things up appropriately. Things need to actually feel good in the early game. I know that they have the capability to make, you know, exponential scaling ranges. We've seen this before. So, you know, bring up the base of those exponential scaling ranges a little bit. Make it so that skills actually are relevant when they're recommended to you. There's no reason that I should feel completely punished for investing in a skill that's offered to me. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly better than everything around it, right? Like, there's a world where you do this, but Magmorb is still better than the other skills. But at least if I recommended somebody, oh yeah, if you want to play Freezing Pulse, you should be fine, they shouldn't feel bad about that decision like 20 minutes later, right? They shouldn't feel bad about not choosing Ground Slab as a Marauder. They shouldn't feel bad about not choosing the Steel skills as a Duelist. They should just feel like, okay, it's gonna be a little bit more work. Emphasis on a little bit more work. It should not be such a monumental extra effort. And I think 3, and the most important, is that we need to find a way, and like, we here, I say this like I'm on the GGG team, but like, there needs to be a way, not of alternative leveling, but lower stress leveling, right? Here's an example of what I mean. Quite frankly, is there a world where we actually need so much stat pressure in the campaign, right? Why are resistances such a big deal even in the campaign? Why is immunity to ailments such a big deal even in the campaign? Why is the general feeling of, you know, straight up just getting obliterated such a common thing in the campaign? We need this experience to actually be something that is difficulty curve smooth, right? It should feel like a good introduction to the game, or it should feel like a cursory pass over the game for somebody who's re-leveling, right? It feels like we should be able to just like log in, kind of turn the brain off and get to work and end up there. None of this nonsense management of currency, because that's another thing that deserves a whole video of its own about how I feel about the currency situation in PoE. And actually, one of the reasons I'm excited for the use of gold as a vendor currency in PoE 2, because I think one of the major things holding back leveling is actually the friction between crafting currency as both a crafting currency and a vendor currency, but that theory will come at a different time. We need changes in those directions. Things that ease up the potential of cost, the potential of error on the player, because it's leveling, for fuck's sake. Like, that's like, I don't know I think we've all realized it if you're viewing this video, but like, we don't play PoE for the campaign. Most of us, right? There's a handful of people who just absolutely love speedrunning the campaign, but I promise you they'll keep speedrunning even if it becomes a little bit easier. In fact, they actually might appreciate it. It might give them more runs that they could think of, because that's like, a common complaint that I've also heard is, if you are into speedrunning, there's just kind of a limited vacuum of skills that are actually good for speedrunning. And so in that vein, we just need to remove places that can go wrong. And that really like hits the core of everything that I wanted to say in this video, just specifically the potential for error in the campaign. It's not something that goes away, right? Like, even when you're good at the game, even when you're re-rolling, there's still so much potential for error that just shouldn't be a part of the process. Like, that's not the thing that gets me hooked on PoE. It's the thing that makes me want to unhook on the game. And so, I hope that, going into PoE 2, because again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, I don't think we can really do much about this in PoE 1, or maybe, maybe GGG's gonna surprise us and fix it to PoE 1, but it's just something to look forward to, or to, keep in the back of my mind as I'm thinking about how I feel about PoE 2 going forward when we get the game in a couple weeks, right? Now, all that said, that kind of sums up a lot of my thoughts on leveling. I have a lot more thoughts, but if I gave you every thought I had about leveling in PoE, we'd be here for another like 27 minutes or something. Like, it would just be, we'd be in here for a while, and I could really like dig into it and break into it and really get nitty gritty with it. But I feel like that's the core of everything that I actually wanted to talk about. Now, I want, to see you guys' experience with it in the comments, just because I like to hear feedback on the pieces that I put out. It's just always interesting to see how you guys feel about the things that I have opinions on, as well as, shit, maybe I'll learn something, right? Maybe maybe I learn some, you learn some, we learn some. Like, I think that's always cool. And I was always, like and share the video, help more people like engage with this discussion. If you want to like, have discussions with these, like with me outside of this channel, by the way, I do also have a Twitch and a Discord in the description. You can catch me when I'm streaming, we can talk shit, we can talk on the Discord, I'll talk shit, right? Whatever it may be, but you know the deal. Anyways, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.